All right, so get this. We're diving into one of history's biggest mysteries, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Huge.
We're going to be taking everything we learned from the Unfiltered podcast episode, The Shadow Behind the Dream,
Okay.
and really dissecting it.
Yeah.
So April 4th, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis.
Wow.
That's where it all happened.
Pivotal moment in history. Yeah, for sure.
So you've got the official story, right? The one that we all kind of learned in school.
Right.
James Earl Ray, a career criminal acts alone, case closed.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that's only the tip of the iceberg?
The narrative, as presented, definitely leaves a lot of unanswered questions.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
And this Unfiltered episode throws a real wrench in the works by highlighting how James Earl Ray almost immediately recanted his confession,
Right.
claiming he was manipulated upon in a much bigger game.
A claim that has fueled countless conspiracy theories, right?
Right.
Each offering a different perspective on who might have truly been behind Dr. King's assassination.
Okay, so let's unpack some of these theories.
Okay.
Starting with maybe the most chilling one government involvement.
Okay.
Dr. King, by 1968, wasn't just fighting for civil rights. He was openly challenging the Vietnam War,
Right.
demanding economic justice. He was really a thorn in the side of the establishment.
Absolutely. His influence had grown immensely, and his message was resonating with a wider audience.
Totally.
He was calling for systemic change,
Yeah.
which was a prospect that likely threatened those in power.
And the Unfiltered episode mentions this alleged FBI memo where they labeled Dr. King as the most dangerous Negro in America.
Right.
If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is.
It certainly adds fuel to the conspiracy fire, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, suggesting a level of hostility and fear from within the government itself.
Yeah.
But the question is, of course, whether this translates into actual involvement in the assassination.
But wouldn't silencing such a prominent figure backfire spectacularly,
Well,
creating a martyr and fueling the very movement they were trying to suppress? It's a risky move, even for those in power.
it's a crucial point. If there was a government-led conspiracy, it would have required an incredibly sophisticated operation.
Yeah.
One that could effectively manage the fallout and maintain the desired narrative.
And let's not forget about the mysterious Raoul,
Right.
this shadowy figure that Ray claimed orchestrated the whole thing.
Yeah.
Gave him money, fake documents, even directions like something out of a spy thriller.
Ray's account of Raoul is incredibly detailed, yet there's no concrete evidence to corroborate his existence.
Right.
No confirmed sightings, no records, nothing.
It's wild.
It begs the question, was Raoul a real person, a mastermind pulling the strings, or was he a convenient fabrication to deflect blame?
That's what I find so intriguing, this complete lack of information around Raoul.
Right.
You would think if he was the puppet master, there would be at least some trace, some whisper of his presence.
Exactly. The absence of evidence in this case is almost as compelling as the evidence itself.
I know.
It deepens the mystery and leaves us grappling with more questions than answers.
Then there's the whole situation with the Memphis police.
Okay.
The Unfiltered episode points out that on the day of the assassination, there was a noticeably reduced police presence around the Lorraine Motel,
Oh, wow.
and Dr. King's usual security detail was reassigned at the last minute,
Really?
almost like someone wanted to ensure he was vulnerable.
A planned hit. That's a serious accusation.
Yeah,
And one that requires careful examination.
for sure.
Was it incompetence, a series of unfortunate coincidences, or something more deliberate?
Yeah.
Looking at the context, the potential motives, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, it makes you wonder who might have benefited from such a lapse in security,
Right.
who had the most to gain from Dr. King's silence.
And that brings us to an often overlooked but incredibly significant aspect of this case, the King family's relentless pursuit of the truth.
Oh, yeah.
In the 1990s, they conducted their own investigation, even filing a civil lawsuit alleging a conspiracy.
And here's the kicker.
What's that?
The jury actually ruled in their favor, concluding that Dr. King's death was indeed the result of a plot.
Wow.
It's a verdict that, for whatever reason, didn't get nearly enough attention.
This verdict is fascinating because it directly challenges the official narrative.
Yeah.
While it doesn't definitively identify the conspirators, it throws the entire case wide open,
Absolutely.
raising questions about who is truly behind Dr. King's assassination.
So we have this official story that even at the time felt incomplete.
Right.
Then we have these whispers of conspiracy fueled by things like that chilling FBI memo and the complete lack of information about Rawl.
Yeah.
Then decades later, the King family actually wins a lawsuit alleging a conspiracy.
Wow.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion, and with every layer, the story gets more and more complex.
And you're left wondering what else is hidden beneath the surface.
Right.
What other pieces of the puzzle are we missing?
Exactly. But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
let's take a step back and really analyze what we've uncovered so far.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's break down the key points, examine the evidence, and see if we can connect the dots.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
Okay.
So listener, grab your thinking cap because we're about to go deep.
All right, let's go. We've got this tangled web of conspiracy theories, right? Each offering a different perspective on who might have wanted Dr. King silenced.
Yeah, and it's easy to get lost in the maze of speculation.
For sure.
So let's try and bring some order to this chaos.
Yay.
Remember that civil lawsuit the King family won?
Yeah,
That's a fact, not just a theory.
right.
A jury, after hearing all the evidence, concluded that Dr. King's death was a result of a conspiracy.
That's a crucial point. The jury's verdict doesn't point fingers at specific individuals or groups,
Right?
but it does challenge the notion that James Earl Ray acted alone.
Totally.
It legitimizes the idea that there were powerful forces at play,
Yeah.
forces that might have had a motive to eliminate Dr. King.
It also raises a ton of questions about why this verdict didn't receive more attention. You'd think such a bombshell revelation would have dominated the headlines.
It's peculiar, isn't it? You've got this landmark legal decision that fundamentally challenges the accepted narrative of one of the most significant events in American history.
Right.
And yet it's almost as if it was swept under the rug.
Almost like someone wanted to keep the focus on the lone gunman theory.
Yeah.
Even when a jury concluded otherwise. It makes you wonder what else might be hidden. What other truths are being obscured?
This brings us to another intriguing aspect of the case, the witnesses.
Oh, yeah.
The Unfiltered episode mentions several individuals who claim to have seen or heard things that contradict the official story.
Really?
People who potentially had crucial pieces of information but were seemingly ignored or dismissed.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
If their testimonies held any weight, wouldn't investigators have jumped at the chance to corroborate their stories?
There are several possibilities here. Witnesses can sometimes be unreliable, their memories can be fallible, or their accounts influenced by external factors.
Yeah.
But in a case as high profile as this one, you'd expect a more thorough examination of their claims, especially if they challenged the prevailing narrative.
So are we talking about incompetence? A sloppy investigation?
Oh.
Or something more sinister? Deliberate attempts to silence those who might contradict the official story?
It's hard to say for sure without access to all the evidence and witness statements,
Right.
but the fact that these accounts were seemingly brushed aside raises serious questions about the integrity of the investigation
Yeah.
and the potential for a cover-up.
It all feeds into this larger sense of unease, this feeling that the truth about Dr. King's assassination is still shrouded in mystery.
And this is where the King family's determination becomes even more significant. They refused to accept the official narrative,
Yeah.
pushed for a deeper investigation, and ultimately their persistence led to a legal victory that validated their suspicions.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes those in power will go to great lengths to protect their interests,
Absolutely.
even if it means manipulating information or suppressing the truth.
And it highlights the importance of individual action, of challenging authority, of demanding transparency and accountability,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to events of such historical significance.
It's about ensuring that justice is served even if it takes decades and faces immense opposition.
Precisely. The King family's fight for the truth is a testament to the power of perseverance.
Yeah.
And a reminder that the quest for justice is a long and arduous,
For sure.
but ultimately necessary endeavor.
Speaking of the King family, their focus on a conspiracy doesn't mean they have all the answers. In fact, the Unfiltered episode points out that they themselves have some lingering questions. For example, they're still trying to figure out the identity of Rawl.
That's right. While the King family firmly believes in a conspiracy,
Right.
they acknowledge that there are still gaps in their understanding. The mystery of Rawl remains a central piece of this puzzle.
Totally.
If he was real, who was he working for? What were his motives?
And why hasn't anyone else come forward with information about him? You'd think someone somewhere would have at least heard of him.
It's as if Rawl exists only within the confines of Ray's testimony.
It's crazy.
A phantom figure who orchestrated this elaborate plot and then vanished without a trace.
It's enough to make your head spin. We've got this officially accepted narrative,
Right.
but then you dig a little deeper
Yeah.
and find all these inconsistencies, unanswered questions, and suppressed evidence.
Mm.
It's like someone took the truth and strategically rearranged the pieces to fit a particular story.
And that's precisely why it's so important to approach historical events with a critical eye,
Absolutely.
to question what we're told,
Yeah,
and to consider alternative perspectives. The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. is a prime example of how history can be manipulated
for sure.
and how the quest for truth can be fraught with obstacles.
We need to be aware of the potential for bias, misinformation, and outright deception,
Hmm.
especially when dealing with events that challenge the status quo or threaten those in power.
Absolutely. We need to develop the skills to discern fact from fiction, to evaluate evidence, and to draw our own conclusions based on a thorough examination of all available information.
So how do we do that? How do we as individuals sift through the noise and get closer to the truth?
Well, for starters, we need to diversify our sources of information.
Okay.
Don't rely on a single news outlet, website, or book. Seek out multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
Compare and contrast different narratives and look for corroborating evidence.
It's about developing a healthy sense of skepticism,
Right.
not in a cynical way,
Right.
but in a way that encourages us to question, to dig deeper, and to demand evidence
Yeah.
before accepting something as truth.
Exactly. And when it comes to complex historical events like the King assassination,
Yeah.
where emotions run high and conspiracy theories abound,
Right.
it's even more crucial to maintain a balanced and objective approach.
So, listener, as we continue our deep dive, I
Yeah.
want you to keep this in mind. Don't be afraid to challenge what you think.
Yeah.
Question everything, seek evidence, and always be open to the possibility that there's more to the story than meets the eye.
Because the truth, as we've seen, is rarely simple or straightforward. It often requires a willingness to delve into the shadows,
Yeah.
to piece together fragments of information, and to challenge the narratives that have been presented to us.
It's a journey of discovery.
Mm.
And sometimes the most important revelations are found not in the pronouncements of authority,
Yeah.
but in the whispers of dissent and the courage to question the status quo.
And with that in mind, let's move on to the next stage of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've explored the official narrative, the conspiracy theories, the evidence, and the unanswered questions. Now let's take a step back and consider the broader implications of this case.
What does it tell us about the power dynamics at play during that tumultuous period in American history?
And what lessons can we draw from this event that are relevant to our own lives and the challenges we face today?
So we spent a lot of time dissecting the evidence, grappling with the complexities of this case.
But now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what it all means. Not just for understanding history, but for how we navigate the world today.
It's like this whole deep dive has been a crash course in media literacy and critical thinking.
You're absolutely right. If the official narrative surrounding such a pivotal event can be so easily manipulated, or at least presented in a way that leaves so many unanswered questions,
Yeah.
it makes you think about how we consume information in general.
It's a stark reminder that we can't just passively accept everything we're told,
Right.
especially when it comes from sources and positions of authority.
We need to be active participants in shaping our understanding of the world. We need to question, to research, to seek out diverse perspectives,
Totally.
and most importantly, to think for ourselves.
And that's especially crucial in today's age of information overload, where we're constantly bombarded with news opinions and narratives, often with hidden agendas.
Developing those critical thinking skills is essential for navigating this complex landscape and forming our own informed conclusions.
It's about recognizing that truth is rarely black and white. There are often shades of gray complexities and competing narratives.
And that's where the ability to analyze information, to weigh evidence, and to consider different perspectives becomes so crucial.
One thing that really stuck with me for the Unfiltered episode was the discussion about the social and political context surrounding Dr. King's assassination.
Ah, yes. That's often overlooked, but crucial for understanding the motivations and forces at play.
By 1968, Dr. King had become a powerful voice, not only for civil rights, but also for economic justice and peace.
His opposition to the Vietnam War put him at odds with the government and challenged the very foundations of American foreign policy.
He was advocating for systemic change, a redistribution of wealth, and a shift in priorities.
Wow.
Issues that still resonate deeply today.
And that's why it's so important to view his assassination not just as an isolated incident, but as a pivotal moment in a larger struggle for equality and justice.
A turning point in American history.
Yeah.
A moment where the potential for progress clashed with the forces of resistance.
And the repercussions of that clash continue to shape our society today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of unease,
Yeah,
but also a renewed sense of purpose.
I understand that. It's unsettling to realize how much we might not know, how easily truth can be manipulated, and how deeply power structures can influence the narratives we're presented.
But it's also empowering to know that we have the ability to think for ourselves, to question authority, and to seek out the truth.
The quest for understanding doesn't end here, listener. This deep dive is just the beginning.
We encourage you to continue exploring this complex and important topic.
There are countless resources available from books and documentaries to scholarly articles and online forums.
Don't be afraid to dig deeper, to challenge your own assumptions, and to seek out diverse perspectives.
The pursuit of truth and justice is an ongoing journey, and we each have a role to play in shaping a more just and equitable world.
Remember, Dr. King's legacy is more than just a historical event. It's a call to action, a reminder that the fight for equality and justice continues.
And as we navigate the complexities of our present and shape the future, his message of love, peace, and social change remains as relevant and inspiring as ever.
So keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and never stop fighting for a better world.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive on